So over this last weekend, there were two anti-trans rallies that I heard about in New Zealand. One of which was actually very close to where I was living. Thank goodness I was actually out of town at this time. I've done a little bit of research. So this Twitter user actually did a very good deep dive into what actually happened.
This helpful Twitter user um, created a very helpful thread of how the New Zealand anti-trans movement started. While there was anti-trans activists engaged before 2018, it was entirely normal process of a petition to the BDMRR Select Committee being accepted that started the organised anti-trans movement in Aotearoa. The petition related to allowing birth certificates to be amended to match a person's gender as an adult in the same way that people could self-identify on passports and driving licenses. This is how we got SUFW, MWK, WLA, and all the other anti-trans groups. The minister responsible, Tracy Martin of NZF, bent under the pressure. She spiked the bill and set up a working group to review the BDMRR to find ways to make it easier for amending birth certificates. That working group was not allowed to recommend law changes. But they did anyway. Shout out to Fleur Fitzsimmons and others who put on the working group. They delivered their report in late 2019, early 2020, and basically Martin ignored it entirely. The anti-trans lobby thought they had won and went after Laurel Hubbard and the Human Rights Council. If you don't know, Laurel Hubbard is a New Zealand weightlifter. She was unfortunately pretty targeted by Australian news websites saying transphobic things about her. But she's a very strong and talented woman. The NZF aren't in government anymore, lol, and new minister Jan Tinetti announced that she was bringing back the BDMRR amendments in 2021 and actually changing the law. The anti-trans lobby lost their entire fucking minds, but first there'd be another select committee on it. The select committee was not a fun time. Submissions got swamped with pro forma anti-trans stuff from New Zealand and obviously overseas. The LGBTQI community turned up to speak about it, and the bill went through almost as is. It passed unanimously at the third reading. It comes into effect June of this year, 18 months after passing as legislation. The anti-trans response was to claim victory because birth certificates aren't used as formal ID in most places, which was not their argument for 4 years until they lost. The anti-trans group also submitted against the conversion therapy ban. They even had a Conservative MP reference Belle v. Tavi as a reason to exclude trans people from the ban. They lost on that as well. Conversion therapy was banned as well. Fun fact, I actually met some of the people who helped the conversion therapy ban be put into play. I took a photo with them and they asked me a few questions about being queer youth. So where did they go from there? Well, mostly they just shared UK and US anti-trans media, where their movement not only had traction, but media and political support. This led to articles questioning NZ gender healthcare model, which is different to the UK's actually. They also started to go after schools. Official Information Act requests were made for how many trans kids schools had, which was obviously gross and intrusive. Another targeted relationships, sex and education, and providers of resources. Then KJK is paid to come here. Our adult human female posters, t-shirts and stickers have been sold by the SUFW for a while, but they'd lost the legislative battle. The culture war wasn't going well either. Bringing her in was a deliberate attempt to jumpstart their dead movement. Instead, they found themselves in the same situation they had been in for 5 years, lacking any mass support given a critical assessment by the media and derided for their reactionary rhetoric and ideology that screamed imported culture war to most people. But they did jumpstart something. The fascists, the conspiracists, the Christian right, they all turned up on message as KJK did. Remember, paid for by the NZ anti trans movement. And now they're organizing for their anti trans ideology and they're panicking about it. It circles back to 2018 and SUFW. They started and organized the anti trans movement in New Zealand. They paid for foreign speakers to come here and used KJK's merch to fundraise and campaign. They made this a white ring issue and they lost every single thing but couldn't accept it. If they don't start this, then the BDMRR gets passed in 2019, conversion therapy gets banned in 2021, the LGBTQI community doesn't have to organize its own defense, thousands of people from 2018 onwards don't have to spend their time rejecting this hateful anti-trans ideology. But they did, and now there's Christian right-wingers and literal fascists organizing against the LGBTQI community, using the same language as the anti-trans movement. Those responsible are so deep in denial from their role in this, I'll doubt they'll ever emerge from the darkness. Anyway, this has been a brief history of how we got here. Support gender minorities Aotearoa, Inside Out Kaoro, Rainbow Youth, and your LGBTQI whānau by rejecting bigotry and hatred, even if it's telling Geoff at work to shut up if he starts on about it again. Love you all. I didn't include the whole thread. There may be a little bit that is confusing or doesn't make sense. Please make sure to check out the whole thread. I will put the tag on screen for this Twitter user. Yeah. I found this tweet that around the time that the anti-trans rallies were happening, I've become aware of a group of neo-Nazis and white supremacists alongside some turfs are hosting an anti-trans event across New Zealand this weekend. They've put up videos suggesting that they will hurt counter-protesters. My message to queer folk and allies is, don't show up to these events.
So one of the groups was actually disbanded by police, because it was considered a hate crime. I'm not 100% sure about the other, probably reached the same fate. Yeah, their main slogan was "Speak up for women." I'm gonna show you an image, and then I'm gonna ask one question. Which women are you on about? I don't know. Look, I don't mean to judge people based on appearance, but these guys look like they would shout at their wife in public. Okay, guys, sorry that this video was very serious. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.